What's happening, fight fans? Ryan Thomas here, live on the Thomas Take Sports podcast for another episode of the show. Of course, just put out a barn burner of an episode, just dropped a bomb on the whole Austin Bills storyline. And it got me thinking. Houston, Texas's own Derrick Lewis takes on Ciryl Gane for the UFC Interim Heavyweight title this Saturday night, August 7th. And I wanted to give my take on who I got in the big fight. This heavyweight slobber knocker has all the potential in the world to be just that, as the great Jim Ross used to say that, and he still says on AEW, slobber knocker, a slobber knocker, just a drag out brawl between two big heavyweights. Very excited for this fight. I think it's going to be a really good one. There was a lot of chatter, I should say, prior to this fight being announced, and actually in the rumblings of this fight possibly happening, that Derrick Lewis and Ciryl Gane would fight for the interim heavyweight title. And I said to myself, why? This doesn't make any sense. The fact that Francis Ngannou, reigning undisputed heavyweight champ, newly crowned heavyweight champ, knocking out the greatest heavyweight in mixed martial arts history in Stipe Miocic, he knocks him out. He's the champ. He finally attains that illustrious gold, achieves greatness in that octagon at the UFC Apex Center. And they put this interim heavyweight title fight together with Derrick Lewis and Ciryl Gane. I don't really understand why, other than the fact that business is business, and sometimes you have stalls in negotiations between one fighter and one promoter. And I think this is the classic case of it. Francis Ngannou and Dana White button heads. I think that's what is taking place behind the scenes. There's no proof of that other than the fact that this fight happened. I don't think this fight happens if Francis Ngannou and Dana White weren't butting heads at some point along this, last few months or so that Ngannou has now, become the heavyweight champion. And I asked myself, why were they butting heads? Why was Ngannou and Dana butting heads? Why were they butting heads? Well, Ngannou wanted that John Jones fight, didn't get it. John Jones priced himself out of it. That probably frustrated Francis, frustrated the UFC, frustrated Dana, and frustrated Francis in terms of what he wants from himself as a champion to defend that heavyweight strap for the first time against a man that many believe to be the greatest to ever do it among all weight classes in John Jones. So that puts Francis, on ice in terms of his activity, and it leaves Francis wondering who the next opponent should be. Now, the next opponent should have been Derrick Lewis. Derrick Lewis is on a 4-fight win streak, finishing everybody. He's got the most knockouts in UFC heavyweight history. These two have a history. They have fought before. It was a lackluster bout, but it was a bout nonetheless that I was excited that it happened, when it happened, how it happened. I wasn't that excited about that. But I do believe that Derrick Lewis and Francis Ngannou are destined to fight again. But Derrick Lewis did something that few fighters do. He took a risk. And the risk is taking on another opponent, let alone an opponent that has looked extremely impressive in his UFC octagon action that we have seen, especially within the last year, in Ciryl Gane. An undefeated heavyweight. That's something to look at, because it's extremely tough to be undefeated in this sport of mixed martial arts where you have all these different disciplines, let alone in a division, the heavyweight division in particular, wearing 4-ounce gloves in this sport with men that are between the weight of 225 and 265 when they weigh in. Actually, 205 and 265 when they weigh in. Come fight time, if you're cutting down to 265, come fight time, you're above it. You're above 265. It might be a 270, 275, 280 in some cases, but nonetheless, Derrick Lewis won't be that big in this fight. He will be cutting down, looking a little bit trimmer in his last few, octagon appearances. And Ciryl Gane is in fantastic shape. Both of these guys could fight 10 times. One guy could win 5 times. The other guy could win the other 5 times. I'm that confident in that statement that these guys are just fighting each other actually at the perfect time. This is a quality fight. It's just in the scope of it, with everything that's going on in the heavyweight division, it just doesn't really make much sense given what has taken place with Francis Ngannou becoming the champ. But if you were to put any two guys up against one another for an interim heavyweight title, these two guys make sense, which is what intrigues me about this fight the most. And when I look at the skill sets of both Lewis and Gane, I truly believe that Gane could beat Derrick Lewis on Saturday night. The question is, will this experience, this opportunity for Ciryl Gane become too big for him? Will the momentum of this fight become too big for him? Will it be too momentous of an occasion, I should say, for Ciryl Gane to take on this challenge? And he's taking on a challenger, a challenge in Derrick Lewis that is as game and is as tough as everybody. And I feel like Derrick Lewis, we haven't even seen the best of the Black Beast just yet. And I've looked at this fight every which way. I truly believe experience matters in these big moments. Derrick Lewis has fought main events. He's fought for a heavyweight title. A lot of people forget about that. But when Daniel Cormier was the UFC heavyweight champion, Derrick Lewis did get a crack at him. He came out short, obviously. But truthfully, I feel like this is Derrick Lewis's fight to lose, in the sense that if anybody could take him on and beat him right now outside of Francis Ngannou, it is Ciryl Gane. But with that being said, if I had a gun to my head and someone said, hey, Rye, what is your take? Who do you see winning this fight and why? I cannot bet against the Black Beast, Derrick Lewis. I have Derrick Lewis winning this one, but I think that this is going to be a really great fight. I see this fight lasting 3, maybe 4 rounds. And yeah, that could spell trouble for Derrick Lewis. He's not known to have the greatest cardio gas tank, but I feel like Derrick Lewis has evolved quite a lot in terms of his physical condition, and I feel like his training partners have pushed him enough for this fight to make him prepared for this fight. So I'm going with Derrick Lewis Saturday night. Derrick Lewis versus Ciryl Gane. I cannot wait for this fight. UFC interim heavyweight title on the line. Can't wait to recap the action Sunday morning.